Hello everyone. Welcome to the March Recreational Astronomy Night meeting of the Toronto Centre, RASC. My name is Paul Markov. I'll be introducing the speakers this evening. And those speakers are as follows. We have Arnold Brody making his debut presenting the sky this month, followed by Ron Macnoaughton presenting about a trip to Mars. And then we'll have the DDO committee presenting to us about outreach at the Dunlap Observatory. And then we'll have an extended announcement by Blake Nancarrow. He'll tell us a little bit about the CAO, the Car Astronomical Observatory on Blue Mountains. And if you remember last month we had to cancel our meeting due to a snowstorm, and that was a good call by our council. The evening drive turned out to be quite treacherous, so I think that was a very good decision, and apologize to our speakers. I've rescheduled all of them for upcoming meetings. And I wanted to ask, do we have any new members here for the first time, or members or not? Hands up. Welcome. Welcome to our meeting. Hope to see you again in the future. And also wanted to mention that we have a course going on next door called First Light. If by any chance you meant to be in that course, go ahead and make the move now and join us afterwards. No? Okay, so you're all meant to be in here. Very good. All right, and I think we're all set to go with the presenters. So I'll call on Arnold Brody to present the sky this month.
All right. Hi, guys. Okay, there's a lot in this show, so let's get started. We'll talk about the shrinking night window this time of year, spring. We'll observing the moon and where the planets. In fact, we'll take a tour of the entire solar system. There's a bullet missing here about deep space. We'll talk about galaxies and double stars, mission updates, and the globe at night, the citizen science project. That's quite easy and something we can all do. So let's get started. The shrinking night window, as you can see here, this is the time frame from now till our next RAN, and you can see the shrinking night window. Nautical twilight, the end of astronomical twilight, I meant to say, is when the sun is 18 degrees or lower below the horizon. That is night, when it gets as dark as it can get. And as of tomorrow night, night begins a little bit after, like around 9:15, and it ends around 5:30 in the morning. Well, by the time of the next RAN, it won't get dark until 10 o'clock, and getting light as early as 4:30. So it's a total shrinkage of about an hour 40 of nighttime that we're going to go through over the next month. And if you want to see the the winter constellations, right now is the best time. For the next few nights, for about another 10 days or so, the skies will be dark. And going out to see the winter constellations like Orion and Taurus, Auriga, and so on, well, it's going to be warmer than you're accustomed to in wintertime. It'll be a lot nicer to do it in April, or the first week or so in April. You'll still have a good chance to enjoy your winter favorites. But by the time we get together next month, they're starting to shrink, or sink, I should say, into the west. And now it's prime time for the summer constellations, or spring. So give up the winter ones. Now it's time to focus on the springtime. We've got Leo halfway up the sky due southeast, chasing Cancer, being chased by Virgo. We've got Hercules clear of the eastern horizon now, so we can enjoy it throughout the spring and summer. And Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, virtually straight up, straight overhead. So we have a new cast of characters drifting into view, and this is our springtime. And you'll notice that this is the sun at 1 o'clock in the afternoon as it climbs up the meridian. And if you didn't notice that, it was at 48 degrees at the beginning of there we are, climbing from 48 degrees up to 58 degrees at 1 o'clock afternoon. So basically it's climbed 10 degrees up the meridian during the upcoming month. Now, let's work our way through the solar system, starting with the sun. And the coronal hole, there's a really big one here. This picture was taken yesterday, and there's a large coronal hole facing Earth, and These are large Earth-facing coronal holes that can be the source of fast solar winds and some streams that can produce or have the potential of producing minor to moderate geomagnetic storms. I don't know if that would be enough to actually generate northern lights for us, but we can watch that and see if we do get some activity, which could actually, if it was strong enough, it might interfere with GPS or communications. But I don't think it'll be quite that bad as the sun goes into minimum. As far as the moon is concerned, this is tomorrow night, and it's the first quarter, or last quarter I meant to say, and that's what I consider to be the beginning of a good nighttime observing run, because from the following few nights, the moon will be rising later and later and later, virtually getting out of your way. We have a new moon on the 5th, and then the full moon on the 19th, and I've had a bunch of different names for the full moon of April, and my favorite one is the egg moon, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. On the 12th, we'll have a first quarter moon, and there's a lunar X opportunity I'll talk about. And as far as that full moon is concerned, it'll still be quite an obstacle to seeing the Lyriads on the 22nd, 23rd, because the moon will be a fat, waning gibbous moon. It'll all but the brightest meteors will be visible, I think. So as far as observing the moon, I mentioned the lunar X, or I meant to if I didn't. There we have the lunar X and a V as well. There's about a 3 or 4 hour window when the sun is at the right angle to produce those. And lucky for us, that 3 to 4 hour window occurs at night in April, not during the day, so we can catch that. I mentioned here that it's at April 12th at 10 minutes after midnight. Well, basically you go out on the 11th, go out the night before, and as midnight approaches, start watching, and you might catch it, and you might be able to photograph that. As far as libration goes, we have the northeast limb tilted our way on the April the 2nd, but the night before, April the 1st, you have an opportunity to observe or photograph or sketch Pascal crater on April 1st, because if you wait till the 2nd, the terminator will cut right through the crater. So if you want to do that, check it out on the 1st. Then on the 18th, 19th, the southwest limb is in our direction, and that's an opportunity to observe Lyot crater and the other dark craters that are hugging that limb. And for apogee and perigee, we're finally finished with the super full moons that we've had the last few months. Now the full moon is about 3 days after perigee, and getting further on the consecutive months. So that's it for the super full moons. And as far as apogee and perigee are concerned, at perigee, 401,000 kilometers away. At perigee, 366. It's a 10% difference as depicted by these images down here. And on the 23rd, you can catch the moon close to Jupiter, less than 2 degrees apart. Now, some of astrophotographers with experience, maybe you could tell me whether or not you think if you had a field of view large enough to capture both, would you be able to see the moons of Jupiter? Would that work? I'm not sure. But if you want to try it, it's in the south-southeast before dawn on the 23rd. I'll talk a little bit about that again. Now, on the 25th, the moon 2 days later will be quite close to Saturn, and would an image catch the rings? That might be a challenge. I'm not so sure it would. And the reason that's in yellow is because that's outside of my time zone. I'm stealing the next lecture's material. And the moon will pass by the Beehive cluster on the 13th of April. I think that's a Saturday night, and if it's a clear one, you can enjoy that. Now, where are the planets? Here we've got Mercury, Venus, and Neptune all close together, so I threw them together on the same slide. And on the April the 2nd, a very thin crescent moon will visit the three of them. These are visible just before sunrise in the east throughout the coming month. You'll see here that Mercury hasn't quite reached greatest western elongation. This picture is April 2. But by the 11th, it will reach that point, at which point it's 28 degrees from the sun, but only about 8 degrees above the horizon at sunrise, because in the spring, the ecliptic takes a very low angle at sunrise. So that'll keep those planets hugging the horizon. And if you want to try and get some images, you might want to find some elevation to try and get the ground a little bit lower, if you can do that. On April the 11th, greatest western elongation. Venus, by the way, has definitely passed its greatest western as it goes to slide behind the sun. It's 12 degrees across and 88% illuminated, which convinced Galileo that that Venus must be orbiting the sun. When he saw that Venus was getting smaller and bigger, he figured it's going around the sun. And Neptune is also in this area. It's in Aquarius, magnitude 8, just a dot. And it'll be climbing higher and higher throughout the spring and summer, finally reaching opposition in September. Now, April the 2nd, here's Mercury really close to Neptune, less than half a degree apart. Now, in my telescope, if I pull the diagonal and slide in the camera, I can get the full moon with room to spare, so I could catch that scene. And what I'm wondering, and hopefully I get a chance to try it, is it possible to take a photograph and get Neptune and Mercury in the picture, and you would have a picture with the two planets that are the closest to the sun and the furthest from the sun in the same image? That would be awesome. And then a few days later, Venus gets close to Neptune, again within a half a degree circle, well within it. And that might be another opportunity to take a picture. But Venus will be so much brighter than Neptune, but still, maybe it can be done. And here's Mars. It's slowly drifting further lower in the west throughout the spring. Very, very slowly as it chases us in our orbit. We just passed Mars in July, and as we're leaving it, it's trying to stay with us. So it takes its time sinking in the west. And it'll pass close to the Pleiades and to the Hyades. Let's take a look at that as it zips by. Now, I told you that Mars is sinking and it looks like it's rising. Well, basically, those are day by day by day, the exact same hour each night. And as you notice, the whole scene is sinking. And Mars is not, well, it's climbing, but not as fast as everything is going down. So, yes, it is slowly sinking into the west. And here's Mars zipping past the Pleiades at the end of March, an opportunity to take some pictures perhaps. And by the middle of April, it'll start closing in on the Hyades, and towards the middle of April, it's about 7 degrees away from Aldebaran. And Aldebaran will be almost twice as bright as Mars on that date. This difference in magnitude translates into 1.9 times brighter, almost 2 times. It's Aldebaran is a spectral class K5, so it's orange. And the interesting thing here is when Mars is that close, you have a chance to compare the two and decide for yourself if Mars is as orange or maybe even redder than Aldebaran. Something that you can enjoy trying. And how about Jupiter? Well, Jupiter will be very close to the meridian at sunrise. Here we have an image for April the 15th, middle of next month. And towards the end of April, Jupiter is about 23 degrees high as it's reaching the meridian as the sun rises, as nautical or as astronomical twilight begins. And throughout the night, if the winds die down as they typically do at nighttime, and if they stay calm and the atmosphere just settles down nice and calm, and all of the buildings and trees and the ground have all released their heat overnight, so everything is calm, hopefully the skies will stand still and you can enjoy a long, careful look at Jupiter, not waiting for those fleeting moments of steadiness. It should be a wonderful opportunity to have a good long look at Jupiter and maybe take pictures of it. On that, here I'm talking about 4:30ish in the morning. So it's just get up early and you can enjoy the scene. Definitely, if you have your telescope out overnight, you just throw a tarp, come out the next day and next morning before breakfast and maybe get a good long look at Jupiter. And if you do want to see some transits, or I should say shadow phenomenon with Jupiter, here's a couple of opportunities for you. Here's Europa casting its shadow on Jupiter. There's Io behind, and it will then emerge and come out from behind. So that's quite an interesting night or morning of watching those phenomena. Or over here, we've got the Great Red Spot, as well as Io casting a shadow on Jupiter on the morning of the 25th. Now, I was searching some websites, and apparently the Great Red Spot is going to be transiting not at the time suggested here, which would be a little bit earlier at 3 o'clock. They say 3:35. So what I want to do here is just sort of put the video right about here. Here we're at almost 4 o'clock. And the Great Red Spot should not be there. It should be closer to the center. So this would be a great photograph if you have the red spot, the shadow of Io, and Io next to the limb. That would be a very interesting picture to put on the wall, wouldn't it? Oh, by the way, Io being closest to Jupiter will cast a very sharp shadow, well-defined and very black. So that's an opportunity, I think. All right, and how about Saturn? Well, it's about 26 degrees east to the left of Jupiter, and it's not going to get that high. By mid to late April, it's only 16 degrees above the horizon at the beginning of dawn. So I think that's still in the murk a little bit. I mean, if you have really clean, clear skies in the morning, then maybe you can get a good look at it as well. It'll be magnitude 0.5. It'll be 17 arc seconds wide. That's just the globe. Double that if you add the rings to it. And retrograde motion is barely noticeable, but it'll start at the end of the month. In fact, outside my time zone. So again, I'm stealing next meeting. And that's how Saturn will look. It's still heavily tilted. The rings are still hiding the southern cap. That's the look through a star diagonal, and if you have a refractor or reflector, it'll be upside down like that. But still a beautiful sight. Uranus is hanging out with the sun, so we can't see it, and won't be available for us to look at until sometime in the summer in the morning. And Neptune, well, we already talked about him. He's hanging out there with Venus and Mercury. Zodiacal light, did I say that right? Zodiacal light. It still should be achievable in April when there is no moon. Get out of the city, get up north, get away somewhere on a morning with no moon, and you might be able to catch this light, which is interplanetary dust on the ecliptic plane that the sun will illuminate, and you can catch it because in the spring I mentioned that the ecliptic is shallow in the morning. It's very steep at night, at sunset, so it'll push that triangle of light straight up or close to, and maybe you can catch it. Meteor showers. Well, there is one that will peak on April 22nd, and the unfortunate thing about it is the moon's going to interfere. The moon will be about, what is it here? I had it somewhere. Oh yeah, 83% illuminated, so it's quite fat. It'll rise at midnight, just when meteor showers tend to peak. And so that might interfere quite a bit, maybe the brightest ones. The Eta Aquarids occur, the peak is actually into May, but don't worry about it, it's really a southern hemisphere meteor shower. Very few will get into our field of view. Auroras, with the sun getting minimal, I don't expect that we're going to see any, although we do remember about a week ago there was an unexpected mass ejection, and it did generate some northern lights, but I went out, what night was it? The night that we thought it was going to come out. I forget which night it was. I drove up to around Uxbridge, out in the country somewhere. I couldn't see it. So I don't know. I think we're done with auroras for the time being, but if you want to keep your hopes up and you want to check it out, here's two websites you can visit to see if there's any action, anything develops over the next few weeks. Asteroids. We've got two asteroids going through opposition during the next month. Here's one of them, number 2, Palais, and it's going to be in Bootes, and here's its path through the next month or so. It's actually on opposition April 6th, but it's a week earlier when it's closest to Earth because it's very, what should I say, elliptical orbit. So if you would like to maybe get a still images or like a movie of the asteroid traveling past stars, March 30th might be your best night because it's closest to us, so its proper motion should be most obvious on that night. The other asteroid that's going to visit us or have opposition is number 7 Iris, and it passes through Corvus, and on the what date is the 10th, I believe? Yeah, on the 10th, it's only about a degree away from the Sombrero Galaxy, so maybe that's an interesting opportunity for a picture as well. Although the asteroid will just be a dot, you'd have to tell people that's where it is. There's going to be an asteroid occultation when 185 Eunike occults a star that's magnitude 11.8. The occultation lasts for a little more than 10 seconds. It's a full magnitude drop. It isn't like the star disappears because, of course, you'll have the asteroid. But the combined light from the two will seem to drop 1 magnitude, which is 2.5 times brightness in the wrong direction, in the down direction. And you can see that path cuts right through southwestern Ontario on April 3. And here's a close-up of that area if you want to try and do this. Here's the center line. The blue lines represent the side edges of the asteroid occultation. The red lines is sigma 1 error. So if you want to try this out, you may want to find a place where you can set up, greenery, a park or something. And if you want more data about this and how to participate, maybe submit your observations. You want to visit Point Source with a Y instead of an I, www.pointsource.com, and you can get much more information about this particular occultation. And speaking of occultation, the moon's going to occultate Xi Ophiuchi on the 23rd of April, a little after midnight. And the occultation starts at 43 minutes after the midnight from Toronto. I use the Ontario Science Centre as a reference point when I come up with these numbers. So if you want to come here to the Science Centre and park in the, you'll see the occultation start at 43. It'll reappear on the near the north top limb at 129. Now, this is a very interesting star because it's a triple star. It's a 3-star system. So instead of the star just disappearing like that, it might be down, 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 step, step, step. It might be very exciting to watch that or maybe take a video through your telescope. And if you do, let the people at the International Occultation Timing Association know because they're very, very interested. They would like some feedback from the public about this one. Comets. This comet, Iwamoto, passed us in February, and in April it's going to stop. It's like there's the circle for April the 7th, and here's the circle for June the 26th. So basically it's going to hang out here virtually motionless for quite a while as Earth is actually pulling straight away from it. And here it is on the 9th of April. It's going to be in the vicinity of the Moon and Mars, who are hanging out with the Pleiades and Hyades. Not that this is going to be obvious, because it's quite faint. You're going to need a telescope to pull it in. Maybe binoculars. But you won't be able to see it naked eye, that's for sure. And here's Iwamoto passing through that galaxy, NGC 2903. That picture is a frame, the opening frame from a movie taken by fellow club member Doug Nanying, and it's posted on our forum. If you want to go to our forum and just search on Iwamoto, you'll find his beautiful video. There's another comet that's, oh, by the way, 2019 is not a really good year for comets. They're all very faint. You're going to need maybe binoculars, but whoops, sorry. You're probably going to need a telescope to see these, because we're talking faint. We're talking double-digit magnitudes. This fellow, for example, he's at magnitude 12.5 as of last week, so maybe even dimmer now. But it's going to be zipping through Gemini, so you'll want to catch that before it sets. The beginning of the month would be best, especially when it's dark. And here's two more comets, West Hartley and Wirtanen. passing across Leo, so they should be visible virtually the entire night. The last time, a week ago, I should say, West Hartley was 12.5, and Wirtanen was 11.5, so again, you're going to want to use telescopes. All right. Here's our last comet, Stephen Oterma, and it's going to be like straight up, virtually straight up, because as I said earlier, Ursa Major is very close to the zenith, so that's the area where this comet is, and he's even fainter at magnitude 13. So if you really want to see some comets, get out there with your telescope, and you'll find a few of them lurking around. As far as the ISS, there are visible passes every night as of tonight, right through April the 8th. I'm not showing you every night here. I'm showing you a sample of the nights, and you can see how it works its way closer to this, and then zips down low. You know when it does that, then it's going to disappear altogether. And visible passes will resume on April the 28th in the morning before sunrise. Now, speaking of the ISS, there's going to be a couple of transits. There is a moon transit with the ISS. Here's the transit line. Hopefully you can see that purple line, but you can definitely see all the times running along it. These are in the afternoon, 1:40 in the afternoon, around 1:40 in the afternoon. So it's daytime. So the moon will be up. It'll be a thin crescent, and I'm wondering, will you actually see the ISS pass it? Maybe you'll catch its silhouette when it crosses the crescent part of the moon, possibly. But there's even a more exciting opportunity. On the April the 20th, there's a solar transit of the ISS, and here's that path. There's Highway 10, there's 89 Mount Forest, Shelburne, Orangeville, so you get an idea where we're talking about. If these excite you, if you want to try and catch a video of the ISS passing in front of the sun, here's your chance on April 20. You might want to visit Cal Sky for more detail. And throughout April, the birds become more active. They're migrating north, those that go south in the winter. They're building nests, they're calling their mates. So I thought this might be fun to talk about what birds are in the sky this coming month. And birds in space, I should say. And here's one, Corvus the Crow. Rising in the east right after dark, surrounded by galaxies, and there's a planetary nebula right in the heart of Corvus. And remember I talked about getting out early, getting up before breakfast and get out there and look at Jupiter, maybe catch it close to the moon. Well, if you do that, if you take me up on that, you're going to have two birds looking over your left shoulder as they climb up in the sky. You've got the Cygnus the swan and Aquila the eagle looking over your shoulder. And in Cygnus, we've got the Pelican Nebula, all right, and the Egg Nebula. And that's why I prefer to call the full moon of April the Egg Moon, because it's timely with all the birds. As far as Aquila goes, right next door in neighboring Scutum, we've got the wild duck cluster. And over here in Serpens Cauda, we've got the Eagle Nebula. And why don't we throw in the butterfly cluster while we're at it? They're not birds, but they do migrate, right? And here's an image also by a fellow club member, Kevin Watson. There's the Pelican Nebula. He managed to tease it out of that image. And this is a detail of his image called Cygnus Milky Way 2016-0807. And so I think that's a very impressive picture. And here's another bird thing. It's the Owl Nebula, M97. It's really close, less than a degree away from M108, which is right here next to Merak. So this is the Big Dipper, so you have an idea where we're talking about. And this picture here is inside that rectangle. So we've got birds in space that you can enjoy. And now spring is also the time where you might catch aperture fever, okay? And that's because here's the sky tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, and then 2 hours later, you can see how our Milky Way, the Orion Spur, is getting closer and closer to the horizon. In fact, On the new moon date of April the 5th at 1 o'clock in the morning, the Milky Way has virtually hugged the horizon. It's out of our sight, almost. And we are looking up in the center, we're looking straight out the side of the Milky Way where there's no dust and interfering material in the way. It's like we're looking out into deep, deep space, and that's why we can see thousands of galaxies in that direction. And in the center here, between Leo and Virgo, we've got what's known as the Virgo cluster of galaxies, 1,277 galaxies that are really gravitationally bound into that cluster. And within that cluster, we've got 16 Messiers. So when I mention aperture fever, there's two solutions. Spend money, but you don't have any OHIP or any coverage from your benefits plan, so you're straight out of pocket. The other thing is get your little 4-inch out there and enjoy these, and be satisfied that you can enjoy at least some of that cluster. And within this little area, we've got what's known as the Markarian's chain. It includes 2 of the Messier galaxies, but here's a photograph of it, and these are the different galaxies that make up the chain. 2 of them are Messiers, and the rest are NGCs. And in fact, 2 of the points are actually 2 galaxies for a total of 8. And it's named after the Armenian astrophysicist Benjamin Markarian, and he discovered that these particular galaxies share the same proper motion, so they're moving as a unit through space. And he figured that out in the 1960s. And that's a full sight. Stars. There's a lot of double stars in the springtime sky. They're starting to appear now, but to speed up, I'm just going to show you all of them right now. Some of them are wide, like here we have one that's more than a degree apart, but some of them are very tight, 3 arc seconds. This one, you might be able, that's going to be a heck of a tight split, 3 seconds, but you can probably do it with a moderate telescope as long as the sky is steady. Lots of them. And some of them are quite beautiful. I like this one particularly, Algaiba, because of the contrasting colors. And we have that with the Izar as well. And now, quick space mission updates. We've got a whole bunch of solar missions. I don't have the time to walk through these individually. I invite you to download the presentation and have a quick look yourself to see what's going on. But what's interesting to see is all of the different nations that are involved. Of course, you've got the US and ESA, but China has 5 missions at the moon right now. 2 rovers operating. One of them on the far side of the moon using this satellite to communicate. And Israel has a mission that's en route right now, and on April the 11th, it's going to execute a soft landing using retro rockets. It's basically a private lander technology demonstration. So it's going to just demonstrate that they've got the capability of pulling it off. And it's not thermal insulated. It expects to overheat on the surface of the moon in about 2 days, but before it dies, it hopes to send back some magnetism readings. Mars missions, there's 5 by the NASA, and there's 2 by NASA, or I should say the ESA, or ESA and Roscosmos are participating in the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter. But of all of these, I think most of the excitement is with regards to InSight as it studies the interior of Mars. And of course, we've got the rover and so on. Lots of activity. And India has a craft that was launched in 13. It landed, or it went into orbit in September 14. And they're just going to run it as long as it can last. There's actually a mission right now by ESA at Mercury. It's a 2-part system. That's the Mars orbiter, and that's the magnetic Mercury magnetic orbiter, and they're on separate orbits. They traveled together, separated, and then went into separate orbits. There's actually a mission right now at Venus. It's run by the Japanese, and they're studying the atmosphere of Venus. And it got into orbit in 2015. There's currently a mission at Jupiter. It's called Juno, And did you know it had 3 people on board? The Roman god Jupiter, his wife Juno, and Galileo Galilei. Basically, they were placed on board as a public effort to raise awareness and encourage children to get involved in STEM. There are 2 asteroid missions right now, and I'll let you read that when you, the Kuiper, New Horizon visited Mars and MU69, and it's going to take another 18 months just to send the data back from that last one, and it'll eventually leave our solar system. They may aim it at another I don't know. Deep space missions, quite a few of them, either by the US and or ESA. Again, I invite you to download and read this. I haven't the time. But maybe the most interesting thing right now would be the return of humans launching from the USA. Instead of paying $80 million a seat to Roscosmos, they're finally going to have some autonomy there. And here's the Space Dragon 2 when it was docked and as it landed in the sea. In July, they expect to have their first manned flight. This is the Boeing Starliner. It was to go up next month, but no. NASA reiterated, these are our safety concerns, make sure you meet them, and they've got 3 more months of work to do to meet them. So they're probably not going to launch their demo until August, and hopefully with people on board in November. So it's all been pushed back a handful of months. Globe at Night, this is where I'll finish, and the Globe at Night is a very easy to do citizen science project. And for April, as of tonight through the 5th, and repeating from April 25th to the 4th of May, you are invited to get outside and take a look at Leo and tell us or tell them how many stars you can see. You have these different magnitude charts, and the idea is you get out there and you say, well, I can see those, but I can't see those, so I have to choose this chart, that kind of thing. If you go to their website and click on the appropriate links, it'll bring up this page where you can record your, submit your observations. When did you go out? Where were you observing from? Talk about your local conditions, like street lights, porch lights. Where are you? You're in the city or in the country. Where are you? And what are the conditions like? Was it hazy? Was it clear? Click on the appropriate picture to represent how the clouds were that night, and click on which picture represents the sky as you saw Leo. Was it magnitude 5 like this? Don't forget to, when you click here, it'll orient the stars in the right direction for you so it knows your longitude and latitude, longitude. So these are all of the references. I'll just simply finish by saying it was a heck of a lot of fun putting this together. I learned a heck of a lot, and I encourage somebody else to consider doing it too. It's a good education. So thank you very much.
The asteroid, try that again, Pallas is going to be, I think, 1/4 of a degree away from Murfred. That was in your graphic. Yeah.
Okay, I forgot to mention that. Yes, you're right. It'll be very close. That you might actually maybe take a movie watching it go by. That might be fun. Let's try. We're very close. Yes, Blake.
You got me. Arnold, the asteroid occultation that sort of went over southwestern Ontario, what's the date again? Or do you specifically know the day of the week? Wednesday night. Is that a Wednesday night? Darn. Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Wednesday, 3 a.m., okay.
Yeah, you can go to work afterwards.
Maybe I'll go visit my mom.
Did I pass it already? No. April 3rd. Looks like it's like 6 in the morning. I don't know if that's UT or not. Yes, UT, so take off for 2 in the morning. Okay.
Thank you very much, Arnold.
Welcome.
Be calling you again, for sure.
A trip to Mars. Scientists have concluded certain places in Mars, and I think this is one, used to be a lake billions of years ago. They did it because a rover dropped out of the sky. It's got nuclear power, all sorts of geological devices for testing things. It's got a drill so it can take samples from down below, and it can do limited testing of the molecules present. The idea is to eventually get to the top there, but there are a few problems. The wheels are starting to wear out, and there are no replacement wheels on Mars. Well, maybe there will be later. I'll get to that. And apparently the computer keeps failing, and they have to restart it and everything. So, or maybe they just are like my computer at home. I don't know. This rover is going to land, and it's going to be much more sophisticated at taking samples and identifying the specific biological molecule present. Whether it's going to find a proof that there's definite evidence of life, who knows, but that's supposed to come. So I left out the whole part on why send people to Mars, but I'll get a little bit to it later. But I really think there's an instinct to boldly go. So, how to get to Mars? I looked for a wagon train going away, and the amazing persistence of people to just leave their home and go to an unknown place or with little knowledge. It takes an awful lot of boldly go-ness. My brother and I went to Cape Kennedy and got a tour, and we went into this building and saw a 10-minute video, and they said, go through the door. And when we went through the door, we saw this. And my brother is pointing at what I understand is a functional Saturn V rocket. Congress cut off funding, and but in theory, if you tested all the electronics and then filled it up with the appropriate fuels, it could fly. Now, the reality is that all the knowledge of how this rocket works is mostly gone, and obviously the people have retired, etc. So this thing isn't going to fly. It might be easier to build a new rocket. But this, oops, I'm trying to go back. Sorry. This rocket is still the largest, most powerful rocket ever built by humans. I have this from the Apollo mission. So it was launched on July 16th, 50 years ago. Took 3.2 days to get into orbit. I'm not quite sure why, but it took another day to get the orbits lined up for the actual landing. It took a tenth of a day or 2 hours for the rover or the lunar module to land, and a little bit longer to walk. And by 8 days, they got back home again. Some missions took 12 days later on, but that gives an idea of how long the duration is. Now, this is more for the group that I talked to, but if this is the path of the Earth around the sun, and basically January, February, March, and when the Earth gets to where it is the same place, it's January again, and our calendar keeps going. If you have comet orbits, and actually most orbits are less circular and more elliptical, and it slows down up here, speeds up going into the gravity well, slows down, and most planet orbits are close to round, but Mars is the most off-round. Now, I've included the months on Mars, but I've started it here, and I'll explain why later. But Mars, in a whole year, Mars gets a little more than halfway around the sun, and then it takes until mid-November of the second year. So Mars orbits in 22.5 months, or 1.88 Earth years, and astronomers have known that for 3,000 years. We have oppositions, and given that I started in January, this would be somewhere in April. And that's when Earth passes inside, because we move 30 kilometers a second and Mars is something like 24. So we're passing on the inside. Mars is brightest and it's also closest. Now, in 1925, Walter Hohmann, not sure how I pronounce his name, figured that the way to get from one planet to another would be to launch from a spot on one planet in that elliptical path I showed before, and time it to reach the other planet on the other side of the solar system. And he was able to prove that that was the trip that took the least energy. And it turns out Earth moves about 30 kilometers a second, and if you add another 3 kilometers a second, you'll get there. Now, this is the core of the problem getting to Mars. If we use the least energy process, we've got to launch when Mars is 44 degrees ahead of us, and we get there in mid-September, or 8.5 months trip. But that's not the only problem. Let's say you get to Mars, you go down to Mars, plant a flag, pick up some rocks, and then head back home again. Wait a minute. At that moment, Earth is here, scooting away at 30 kilometers a second. So for the astronauts to catch up to Earth, they would have to accelerate not by 3 kilometers a second, but by 30, 40, 50, just to catch up to Earth. So what you have to do is wait for the alignment to work out again where Mars is ahead of Earth, and then you launch from Mars and you get back to Earth. And that wait is 15 months. So using the least energy for a trip, it's 8.5 to get there, 15 to wait, 8.5 back, or almost 3 years for a trip to Mars. How do you survive the long trip? Well, first of all, you need space, and they found a way to make a platform that can fold up in a tiny space. You add air, it fills out, and I understand there's a component of the space station like that. What about supplies? Like, the Apollo astronauts were 8 to 12 days. We're talking about 25 for a pardon me. 25 times for a one-way trip, 100 times for their wait and then come back again. And in the service module for the space, for the Apollo mission, you had tanks of rocket fuel to get down into Mars orbit, or Earth, the moon orbit, and back up again. There are supplies of oxygen, hydrogen. They made electricity from that. The water was drunk by the astronauts, and they just dumped it outside. I understand the food was stored within the actual capsule. But that was only 8 or 12 days worth of supplies. We're talking about many times more. So you recycle. So the Americans have installed a device where you put all your fluid, shall we say, left over, and it's recycled and purified, and these people are drinking, shall we say, recycled liquids. Now, apparently the Russians don't have one of those, so there must be a real battle to be the Russian that's lucky enough to carry a yellow gasoline tank of liquid to the American side. Anyway, even with that, they still need to replace about 20% of their water, so their continual deliveries of water. So this recycling isn't perfect. Oxygen. Apollo had tanks, or you can take water that uses less volume, pass electricity through it from solar or nuclear, and you get hydrogen and oxygen. Carbon dioxide, problem in submarines and space capsules. If you pass it through lithium hydroxide, chemically like lye, you can get rid of it. There are other techniques that are being invented to fight against climate change, but there's one way to change carbon dioxide back into oxygen, which is plants. Now, I had a whole section on plants that I was going to include here, and I've moved it to the end, but I have a big discussion about plants. Another problem is bone and muscle loss from being in space from all that. Was it thirst, Charlene, that Robert, was that the astronaut that was at the show? Anyway, a Canadian astronaut was at a presentation on Mars, and he said, what? Okay, he said that when they landed, the commander said, well, you can get up now, and he tried to get up, and he physically couldn't move. And he just had to wait 20 minutes for the helicopter crews to arrive, and they got carried out. Now, who's going to help them when they arrive on Mars? You know, it just isn't going to happen. Now, this is after still doing an hour or two of exercise a day. And if people think you can send astronauts in a tiny Apollo-sized capsule or a little bigger, where's the space for this sort of exercise equipment that is absolutely needed? Radiation. I'd used the words solar flare, and I changed it to coronal mass ejection, but I didn't change all. Every now and then, part of the sun squirts out some matter with sunspots, etc., and it takes a day or two for them to reach Earth. So if you're in a spacecraft like this, one thing you can do is turn around. So the most massive part is between you. Oh, I went backwards. Anyway, that lets you get protection. Interesting thing about 1972. The second last mission was in April, Apollo 16. The last mission was in December. And in between, there was a solar flare large enough to detonate mines off Vietnam. And what would have happened to astronauts in a space capsule or maybe a few kilometers away from the lunar module, and they got word that this was coming and they have to dash back? Like, space is a dangerous place. But even worse is cosmic rays, because they come from all directions. And I got this data, but I got larger data for the Mars expedition. I think it was 900 that they did in the presentation that I went to. So we're talking about huge amounts of radiation, and I'm not sure how they can be protected. The Earth is protected from two things. Our magnetic field deflects particles around us. And also, did anybody ever live in a house where one of these pumps was used for actual pumping water rather than an antique decoration? Is anybody here? I can't see anybody's face. In the group that I talked to in Bolton, there were a number. How a pump works, it's not that you're sucking the water up, but the air pressure is pushing down, and when you pull up on this, you're reducing the pressure there, and it's the air pressure that can lift it somewhere around 25 feet. The theoretical maximum is 33, and actually the protection of our atmosphere is equivalent to 33 feet of water. Now, the problem is, if you want to shield a spacecraft, you need the same mass of shielding for the same protection. You can use lead, which is more dense, but you still need the same mass, even though it's going to be thinner than the 33 feet. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to get around this problem. Now, when you're stuck in a small group for a long time, personality conflicts evolve. And how do you maintain morale? And one of the speakers in this session we went to was talking about ways you can pick teams to interact. And I've read the critical person on a team is not the commander or the doctor, but the person with that wonderful sense of humor that when things go tense, you can just make a joke or do something goofy. I heard someone that went to Antarctica for overwintering. They did all sorts of goofy things, and that's a way to survive. Maybe you can hibernate. And it turns out you can already do that for medical reasons. You get a little bit cooler, half of the food need, 1/40th the volume, but you have to trust somebody to wake you up, especially if they have a first name of Hal. Okay, I talked about the route to Mars with the least energy, where it takes 3 kilometers a second. Now, I just worked through the months, and this is like a back of a piece of paper calculation. It turns out you could maybe leave in somewhere near the end of February, get there by mid-March, and I just estimated the distance. And then you might spend a month planting your flags and picking up your rocks, and then another month and a bit going back. And what you'd have to do is need over 25 kilometers a second more speed. But not only that, because you're going so fast, you would coast right past Mars unless you crash into it, which isn't a good way for astronauts to survive. So you need a whole bunch of fuel, not just to get started, but also to slow down. And then a repeat to speed up here and then to slow down there. And the amount of extra energy is huge. So maybe there are ways to come up with more efficient rockets. So you might have a nuclear rocket. And there could be something like this where you have a reactor, some fluid gets pushed into it, it gets squeezed out at high speed. Now, pretend, can you get me? Pretend I'm on a skating rink that's perfectly frictionless. I could get moved towards the boards by throwing either this, which might not make me popular, or this. So if I throw this, that's going to force me back a little bit, and if it's frictionless, eventually I'll get to the boards of the skating rink. The only problem is, if you're in a rocket, once you fire something out in space, you no longer have that to throw out in space anymore. So even if you've got a super efficient energy engine, you still need your working fluid that goes out. Now, keep it on zoom. This is landing on Mars now. So this is a painting of the Apollo spacecraft. And I had always thought that this is simulating the spacecraft. I always thought it just went in flat. But apparently it goes in at a slight angle to give it a little bit of a lift, to have it go through more atmosphere, to take enough energy away from the spacecraft that then you can pop a small parachute and a big parachute and eventually land. This is from a video of Mars, and their atmosphere is 1% of ours. So for the same mass, you need a bigger heat shield, and eventually you're going to slow down enough that you can pop a parachute. And I had trouble getting this from the video, that's why it's not clear. Then you drop the heat shield, and eventually you have this where you have a rocket, and this is how the Curiosity rover landed. And this could have radar that focuses down, and it can work very accurately where it lands because it can identify features. Then it drops the rover. And that's what I meant when I said the rover fell out of the sky. Well, the Curiosity landed rover is 800 kilograms. I made this up and just pulled the astronauts might need 8,000. Well, the lunar module was 15,000 kilograms. Some of that was spent in fuel landing, but that gives a sense of the mass of this thing, and air braking becomes less effective for larger objects, so you need to carry more fuel with you to be able to land. Living in Mars. I personally found all the paintings I saw of landing on the moon were totally different from what it really was. Now, this painting that somebody made, it looks like they're leftover capsules, and see the burn from going through the atmosphere. Well, the atmosphere isn't very thick on Mars, so I don't know if that would be true. People are living just in the capsules, and radiation, half of the radiation is blocked by Mars, but there's still lots of radiation, and I wonder if they'd be inside. Notice they have, I think these are solar panels. Well, solar panels are great, but sometimes Mars has a 3-month dust storm, like just when I wanted to observe it at opposition. So if you're counting on solar panels for energy for your farming and everything, it's not reliable. So it could be that they'll have to live underground. And again, there's another solar power thing, and same comment. So here's my discussion on farming. The term biosphere is defined as the sphere that life lives on Earth, except there's life surprisingly deep into the Earth and surprisingly high up, so it's less a sphere than people might think. And I imagine most of you have heard of Biosphere 2. This is in southern Arizona, and some wealthy guy who cared about the environment, etc., was persuaded to sink a few $100 million into this. And 8 people lived in this for 2 years, and they ate the food growing in it, but it was a very restricted diet, but they lost a lot of weight, but they were okay for health. The plants removed carbon dioxide and made oxygen, but they found the total volume of oxygen in O2 as well as CO2 went down over time. And it turns out there was a reaction with concrete, and what they had to do is add more oxygen instead of lasting the 2 years. And apparently they broke into 2 factions that were brutal, and they all kept up their professionalism, but it was brutal in there. Incidentally, the guy got tired of paying the money, so he fired the board and brought in a new board. And this was run by Steve Bannon of Donald Trump's friend for a while. So, all right. So how big is this thing that fed 8 people for 2 years and might have been able to keep going? Well, that's 50 meters, but I don't know about you, but it's hard to relate feet and meters to a size. That's pretty big. Well, this is the Science Center to the same scale. That's Don Mills Road. That's where our cars are parked. And we walked in through there, and we're in this pod here. Now, how many of these areas would be under glass here? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4? That's a big area that has to be made for farming. Wait a minute. Let's think of putting plants in a spacecraft. Well, this is the service module, the command module, and the lunar module that were sent to the nearby moon by the largest rocket ever made. What a comparison of size. Except that is the actual scale size of that. Now, can you imagine finding space on that to balance, have the same, whatever you call it, for the in the biosphere through? Now, maybe with biotechnology, hydroponics, whatever, it might be more efficient, but you're still talking about a huge volume, and is it going to work? Matt Damon, in his movie, he grew potatoes on this, and they forgot a couple of things. First of all, there are perchlorates on the soil. It would be a toxic waste site if it were on Earth and people were near it. And also, in the daytime, it sometimes gets close to freezing, maybe a little above freezing, but at night it gets to 100 degrees below 0 Celsius, and there are changes in atmospheric pressure too, so, it made a good movie. Vehicles. I don't know whether the vehicles would have tires like this or whatever, but gasoline won't work because there's no oxygen in the atmosphere. So it has to be battery powered. The astronauts have to go in to there, and anytime you are on a surface, you bring dust in with you, and the air seals get loosened, and sometimes vehicles break down. So 3D printing. And in this, you have a computer-controlled device that just adds a little bit of whatever the working fluid is on different layers, all computer-defined, and you get incredibly complicated shapes. They've got one that works in a vacuum. In theory, you could use this to build structures in space. So you have your 3D printer. It slowly adds layers to it, and you have an arm lifts it up. When it gets to a certain height, another arm keeps going. You can make it as long as you want, as long as you have enough fluid. Then you can join a connector to it with space for other connectors. Then the Ulysses system, and this is a company that's designing it, can make a whole truss structure in space where you don't have different gravitational forces. And they are also saying they can have electrical and data connections all through these things. Whether that would work in Mars gravity, I don't know. They know what moon dust are made out of, so they found similar rocks on Earth. And they've got a system where they can use a 3D printer to make these devices, but maybe that's the size of a coin. And the other problem with 3D printing is this supposedly took something like 8 hours to make. So if that's going to be a brick for a structure astronauts are going to live in, it's going to take a lot of time to make enough bricks to make a home for them. So my talk is called Trip to Mars, ? We're stuck with the tyranny of the orbital structure that it's a long time to get to Mars, a long wait, and then a long time back. Tiny firecrackers like the Saturn V need to be enlarged. Somehow or other, before the astronauts get there, there's going to have to be construction of a place where they can live. They cannot live on the surface. So my conclusion is, I don't think there's ever going to be a trip to Mars. Now, by trip, I mean go to Mars, land, pick your rocks, plant your flag, head back home again. But humans have a history of spreading to every corner of the world. Now, this is 20 years data, and some of it's been replaced, but it was a relatively clean map. Some of the trips are over distances by water where they cannot see any sign of something on the other side. So, is there going to be a trip to Mars? Well, I think there's some human instinct that says we should boldly go, and I predict we're not going to take a trip to Mars, but in a number of decades, we're going to make a colony. Thank you.
Questions for Ron? What do you all think
Out
about?
of curiosity, does anybody agree with me?
Right.
That we won't go to visit, but we will go to stay. Well, a one-way trip implies, you're fated to stay there. A colony is sort of a positive thing, and that's why I worded it that way. But I've read people that say it just takes a little bit of political will, and all we need is to put a big enough rocket up, and we can do it in 5 years or so. And I just can't see it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Hello. Everyone can hear me, right? Okay. Yes, so thank you. And thanks for staying back for the last talk. So I am one of several of us who are representing the DDO subcommittee that has been in charge of coordinating activities since we have now resumed our activities back at the observatory up in Richmond Hill. So who is the committee? There's me, Bhairavi. Ian, who's right now in Collingwood. Chris Vaughan. Blake was here. Oh, right outside. Okay. Eric Briggs. It's right there. Arnold. And we have Denise over here as well. So for those who may not have heard us when we presented last year, we essentially got into a contract with the town of Richmond Hill to provide astronomy programming to the general public. That contract got official in early spring or mid-spring. And since then, this table right here is showing us a range of activities that we have run while on site, including several weekend programs that were either a family night series or a lecture night series. And then we had a few that were commemorating special events such as the Mars Opposition and so on and so forth. And in that, we had a lot of interest and a lot of our own members come out and support us in various ways. We've been enjoying running these programs on site. This was, those were pictures from our grand opening. We do have the Skylab up on the second floor. For those who have not visited the DDO, I'd highly encourage you to come out and join us at our events. Perhaps volunteer, but we'll get back to that later on. But we have this room that we call the Skylab room, where we run stellarium presentations, and it has been a really nice, popular spot for our visitors when they get to see the night sky on a huge wall. And that's thanks to Chris and Blake for setting that up. So as I mentioned, we've had a range of events, and okay, yes, this is showing the same picture. There are a few that were from family nights, and then there were a few from our paint night that we ran. So during our family nights, it was a great way for the public to come and meet out with our members and get to chat a little more about telescopes, what to observe, how to observe, and really they were also, many in the public had not known that there was an observatory in Richmond Hill, or it had that style of architecture, and so on and so forth. So for many, it was really a very interesting perspective, and realizing that it was down the road from Toronto. This is an example of our lecture night series. Pretty much through all the events that we had offered, we were pretty much sold out very quickly, to the point that many were like, when's the next event? And we're like, stay tuned. So these are just a summary of the speakers that we had invited and the range in topics that they had covered through several lecture night events. So do want to call out a shout out, give a huge shout out to all our volunteers who have helped us through all of 2018. We have, in the process of running these general astronomy programming, have also now added a different aspect to it, namely fielding general requests that come into the town. So the town has been getting nonstop requests, and basically each of the program partners will take sort of lead in running those bookings. So already in 2018, for each of these months, we had quite a number of requests, and that's only growing so far. This is where we took a break for the winter, but we have now, in that time, the committee had to come up with, well, what are dates that we want to offer in this year, and the schedule is sort of also starting to get filled up in that way. So we do now have spring and summer dates officially made public. I guess the town has created links where the public can go and sign up for these events. They are similar to last year in that we're still running family nights, we're still running lecture nights, but we're also offering 2 different types of new programs. We're offering NOVA for beginners. The only thing is that it's no longer called officially NOVA through the town's website. It's called Introduction to Astronomy. But there's 1 series that we're running for 6 classes, and then we're also offering 3 paint nights over the summer. And so those have been set, lecture nights, family nights, and then we're still getting these public requests from groups that want to visit us. So we already have 7 between now and June. We've covered a few already. So that's where I'll pass it over to Denise.
Thank you so much, Bhairavi. So I just wanted to call out for volunteers at this point. You guys have seen we've been very active last summer. We had so many great events that Bhairavi took us through. But we are a fun group of people who want to have more people added to our numbers. So we are looking for people to join in and fill in a number of roles. So if this interests you, please do get in touch with us. We need people to be hosts and greeters. These are folks who welcome the public to the observatory and help them find their way around. We need lawn telescope operators. So if you are interested in bringing your own scope, setting it up on the lawn, and sharing the night sky with the public, this is a fantastic opportunity to get involved in that way. We also need Skylab presenters, people who are familiar with Stellarium. I know there are a number of you out there tonight. You guys are more than welcome to join in and to share that amazing software with visitors to the site. Now, Bhairavi mentioned that we have some paint night events coming up. I know that we're all into astronomy, so we're more on the science side of things, but if you're an artist or you know an artist, we want to talk to you. We want to get not only the STEM side of things going, but the STEAM side. We're trying to integrate some of those arts elements into the programming at the observatory. So please join us. Please send your artist friends our way. We also need lecturers and speakers for upcoming speaker nights. I think you're going to talk about some presenter training, is that right? Yeah. If you're interested in sharing your experiences, I mean, much in the way that some of you did tonight, thanks to our colleagues who presented earlier, then you are more than welcome, again, to get in touch with us. And finally, we do need some volunteer coordinators, people to help get the volunteers organized, make sure everybody's on the same page and knows where they're going. But there is, again, one last opportunity to volunteer. If you are interested in learning to operate the 74-inch telescope at the David Dunlap Observatory, you can do that. So this is, I think for some people that's a big draw to sort of learn how to operate that telescope, learn about its history, learning about its function, its mechanics, its engineering. It's a very amazing piece of equipment. So if you want to do that, we do have some opportunities. Chris is going to talk more about training on the scope a bit later. But these are some of the roles that you can fulfill as a volunteer at the DDO. Doesn't end there, though. We have, as I said, lots of fun when we go out for these family nights and our events. We are a great crowd. We are friendly. There are perks to coming to join us. You will get an amazing T-shirt. It says volunteer on the back. You will get a name tag. It's lots of fun. So afterwards, we also tend to go out. We have some, our meetings after the meeting. We go out for beverages and food and have a good time. So this is a really great way to share your interest in astronomy, your enthusiasm for this science with a really broad range of people, all of whom come to the observatory very excited to be there, very excited to learn about the telescope and about the site and its history. So please do consider joining us. If you're interested, we have a bit.ly address up here. So bit.ly/ is that a 1 or an L? 2LCVZ2P. So you guys can go to that address to sign up. We have this great form that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen that says what roles are you interested in and what nights are you available. So that, I think, is being updated as our schedule of events gets updated. There are 24 events on there now. There will be more as the season goes on. So please do come out and join us. It'll be fantastic.
So I'll just add one last thing, because Denise covered a lot of it. This is a Google form. So this link will take you to a Google form. And like she mentioned, we are constantly updating it with current dates. We will remove the old dates that have been completed, things like that. So it'll be a live, active link. But at the same time, we will also ensure these dates kind of go out to our forum. So in case you've missed out on signing up this way, this is just an early preview for you to see we're having these events. So we definitely need a core group of volunteers to help us through each of these. But at the same time, we'll send out a call through our forum. And before I move on to telescope training specifics, I just wanted to add, we got word through the town of Richmond Hill. They had essentially submitted an application for the Parks and Recreation of Ontario's Award of Excellence. This was late last year, and then they got word that they won said award. And in doing so, this award is specific to the activities being run at the observatory. So for that reason, the town has invited all program partners to come and accept with the town of Richmond Hill this award. So Ian and I will be going. That's happening tomorrow. So wanted to, again, congratulate all of our volunteers for helping us reach this point of being a recipient to this award. All right, over to Chris.
All right, thank you very much. So as you can tell, we're constantly in need of manpower and person power to help us run the observatory. We're literally sell out everything we do, so the more volunteers we have, the more events we can run. There's really no limit to how much we can grow. So I've been in charge of developing a team to operate the 74-inch telescope and lead tours inside the big dome. And we initially put out a call for interest of RASC members who were interested in learning this process. And I took two separate pools of volunteers and did an orientation session. And the new operator orientation program was basically designed to scare away most people and leave the real cream of the crop. And the reason I say that is because it's basically a priceless resource. It's vintage 1935. There are very few safety safeguards against us destroying or damaging the telescope. So one really needs to know what they're doing. And so we're really looking for people with the right stuff to operate the telescope. Having said that, we've put an open call out for anybody that wants to come and sort of try out or at least get the information from us. And so we've got 32 candidates in an initial pool, which are learning to either operate the telescope hands-on, or perhaps a number of people have decided that they'd prefer not to actually run the telescope, but still lead the tours in the dome, learn about the history of the telescope, how it works, and so on, because we need both sorts of people. And when we're doing an event at the DDO in the dome, we do need 2 or 3 operators on hand at any given time so that we can have people trading off for washroom breaks and running and retrieving or groups of guests that come and go. So we also have another group of candidates that have expressed interest, and those 16 candidates who will go through my intro lesson. And then, as I said, we put 2 or 3 of the active trainees on each of our programs to sort of shadow a qualified operator and learn the ropes. I'd like to congratulate Denise and Blake Nancarrow, who put in a lot of time last summer shadowing me and being in the dome Saturday night after Saturday night after Saturday night, and have on the verge of graduating into full operator status. So I really want to congratulate these two. One of the reasons why we limit the numbers of active trainees is because it's practice makes perfect. And so the more hours we can give an individual, the sooner that they'll become proficient at doing it. So that's why we're not sort of letting loads and loads and loads of people come forward. Once we graduate our current cohort, then we'll look at adding some new operators down the road. So thanks very much.
So, planning ahead, we certainly have our plates full with all the prep that goes into running these activities. But at the same time, we also want to catch up and, in fact, expand on what we do as a program partner at the DDO. So that includes, as per town's requirements, ensuring we have a lot of these checks and safety training completed. So Blake has been leading up the charge on getting those certificates sort of coordinated and ready on our side so that when town requires it, we can show them. So if for our current volunteer pool, if you haven't already heard from Blake or the town directly, please let us know, and then we will follow up. And certainly this applies also to new volunteers. As mentioned earlier, we have on that Google form link several spring dates. Our official spring programming starts up on April 11th, if that's a Saturday. And then we have others that are going well into the summer. And Chris mentioned about telescope training. We have here, we want to do a presenter training as well. And so we've put up 3 dates. We will send out a poll. If you already know this, if you're available on either of these dates, you can come and talk to me after this to let us know if any of these dates for presenter training work for you. If it does, if we get a majority, we would like to run that said training before we dive right into this year's programming. And as mentioned, we will be putting a call out for speaker invites as well. So, who want to join us or continue helping us, please do send your questions or anything to our email address. This is our active email address for everything DDO specific that RASC leads. And as mentioned earlier, if you're aware of the dates that you're able to help us out, then please go to that link or follow us along on the form. So with that, I think we're wrapped up. So I want to say thank you for hearing us out.
What is a paint night?
So as Denise mentioned earlier, it's our efforts of including the art into STEM as we talk about astronomy and space science with the general public. We want to give them that opportunity to be creative after they have heard a little bit about a space-themed topic. So when we last ran it, we had a discussion about exoplanets at the start, and then everyone who had attended got a chance to paint their own version of an exoplanet. So that way, and we were surprised to see both kids and adults actively participate in that. So everyone walked away with something that was either their own version of Earth or something similar. So we are looking to at least try that out for the summer, and then we'll see how that goes, and then think about continuing it on next year.
Years and older. So there's no kids allowed.
This time, no. The first time I ran it.
There's nothing for Astronomy Day?
Not at the DDO, but we are aware that RASC has other events planned, and so we're keeping in mind that there may be activities at the Science Center or at CAO, and trying to ensure we don't overstretch our and Millennium Square, right? So for Astronomy Day, we're not doing anything at DDO specifically, but I'm sure RASC has something for your planned.
We're also going to be busy on Astronomy Day doing Science Rendezvous down at University of Toronto, so I thought I'd point that out. That's a daytime thing.
what was Astronomy Day this year? And when was it? So May 11th.
Right. Nobody else? Good. Thanks again.
Hi, my name is Blake Nancarrow. I'm one of the committee members. I'm wearing lots of hats, but tonight I'm wearing the CAO hat. I'm on the committee of the Astronomical Observatory, and I just wanted to give you a really quick update of things going on there. In particular, our upcoming work party. That's a very nice aerial photograph by one of our members, Wayne Gilbank. I'm not sure exactly what the situation was. I think it was a birthday gift, and he was able to fly in a small plane, so he flew over the CAO. He lives out of Collingwood, and he has one of my own dome lots, the little domes that you see off to the right there. So he took that very nice shot for us. So the big thing I wanted to let you know is that we have a work party coming up on the weekend of May 4 and 5, and we're always looking for volunteers for those. So if you would like to lend a hand, if you're skilled, if you're good with wood, if you're good with power tools, if you have all your digits still attached, that's preferred. If you're not skilled, I don't mean to make it sound like that you have to have lots of skills or anything like that. We do have lots of different activities, and we do some training as well. But they're fun events as well. We don't have a T-shirt at the end of the weekend, so. But you get to stay for free at the CAO. The normal usage fees are waived, and we feed and water you very well during that event, and it's an opportunity to do routine maintenance. At the spring party, we do seasonal things, sort of like one would open up a cottage at the end of the winter, and there's lots of things that are broken that we're repairing or that we're upgrading. You can talk to me. Tony Hervatin is here. I'll point him out when the lights are on. He is the organizer of maintenance and management at the activity, so at the observatory, so he can answer questions about activities there. But any of us on the committee. Speaking of which, I wanted to introduce you to the committee for 2019. So we have Geneviève, who's joined the committee for the first time, and myself, I rejoined the committee. Grace Hervatin, Tony Hervatin, and Ian Wheelban have been longtime supporters of the CAO, and Ian takes the helm this year. He's the director, the Grand Poobah, so he has a great big hat up there. But again, you can talk to any of us, and some of us are here this evening about the CAO. So just in closing, if you have any questions about the CAO, I'm happy to answer those. And again, if you're interested in helping out at the work party in May, we would appreciate that. And there's a quick email address if you have any general questions or any comments, or you've never been there and you want to visit and you want to know what's involved and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll see you soon on the Blue Mountains. That's it for me. Any questions now about the CAR, Astronomical Observatory. And Tony, do you want to stick your hand up? So Tony's the subcommittee chair of maintenance at the CAO. Eric, question, comment?
Now, could you please tell us about the Sue Laura Observatory?
Sure. That's actually in this photograph here, that aerial photo. So down at the bottom here is our newest building or structure at the site that we built last summer. That's the Sue Laura Observatory, or the SLO Observatory. It's beside the big Jeff Brown Observatory. You can see these have roll-off roofs here. So we have a large telescope there that we use for visual astronomy. That's where we have our star parties and public events and so on. But the new SLO is dedicated to astrophotography. So members that want to take long exposure astrophotographs with a good quality mount, good telescope, which has obviously good tracking and uses guiding, has a guide scope and guide air software and so on. So all the hardware, equipment, bits, and a lot of the software is all taken care of. Essentially what you do is you arrive and you attach your camera and you start to shoot images. So we've set it up to make it very, very easy for anybody to do that. So on any given weekend when there's a supervisor there, they will essentially unlock that building and then you have a go at it. If there's lots of people that want to use it, and we expect that it's going to get popular, we're going to obviously make time slots. We're just sort of still figuring out some of the logistics of that, but basically you'll pick some time slots when you want to do some imaging, and then off you go. That help? Any other questions? Oh, thanks again.
All right, thank you for the update, Blake. All right, so that concludes the speakers lineup for this evening, and thank all the speakers for keeping within their time limit. Actually, some of you left some minutes on the table, so to speak. And we'll move on to announcements by our President, Ralph Chou.
Where's this? Yeah, this thing's being, it's doing something funny to me. Okay, so do we have anybody here for the first time tonight? A couple of people, great. Okay, well, tonight was a recreational astronomy night program, and the next meeting is actually going to be another type of program that we offer here as our members meeting series, and that's a speaker's night. So our guest speaker for the next meeting on April the 10th is Dr. Sarah Simons, who's the director of the William J. McCallion Planetarium at McMaster University. And the title of her talk is "It's Sirius O'Clock, Astronomical Timekeeping in Ancient Egypt." So a little bit different from what we hear about most of the time, but still should be an interesting talk. Okay, our next recreational astronomy night program is in 4 weeks on the 24th of April, and Brian Charnick, who got preempted by a snowstorm at his first attempt at the sky this month, is going to be coming back to present the Mother's Day edition, and so that should be interesting. And if you spend as much time doing that one as you did for the first one that you put online, it should be a great presentation. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. We also have a special guest speaker, Elizabeth Tasker, talking about alien landscapes. And Ms. Tasker is visiting from overseas, and we're also trying to arrange for some book signing because she does have a number of astronomical publications that she's offering. And then we have Richard Blackman, who will be talking about fiddling with focus the DIY way. And for those of you who have tried to do astrophotography, you know that fiddling with the focus is really critical. So it'll be interesting to hear what Richard has to say about that. Okay, regular observing sessions, solar observing, which is run by Sean Lee, right down there at the front. Our next session is on April the 6th, the first Saturday of the month, and Sean will be giving a go or no-go call on our various media, either on Friday night or first thing on the Saturday morning. The backup, if that day is overcast or raining, hopefully not snowing, is the following Saturday. Our other observing sessions, we have the Dark Sky Star Party on the first clear night of the 1st through the 4th of April, so that's next week at Long Sault Conservation Area. And the next City Star Party the following week, the first clear night between the 8th and the 11th. And of course, the 10th is our meeting. So with that program, that's going to be at the Bayview Village Park. Again, go or no-go announcements will be on our various media. We got our first Millennium Square outreach event on Friday the 12th of April, and that runs from 6 until 11 p.m. I understand that for that program, there may be a Rogers Cable crew coming out to do some taping and interviews of the public as well as the presenters that evening, so that should be interesting as well. Car Observatory, which we've just heard about. Again, you can book online to go up there and visit. I did get a late afternoon email from Ian Wheelman, who informed me that there's still 1 meter of snow on the road going into the observatory. We're going to need a good week or two of +5 or more for that to disappear. So if you do go up to the car over the next few weeks, you're still going to have to park at the top of the hill and walk in. The road itself, if you get mired in that snow, you will not get out. So just a word of warning. Okay. One of our benefits of membership is the Telescope Loan Program. We have Peter and George here, who are the two, and oh, I guess Mark is here as well. So we have all three of our program managers here. And if you're interested in finding out more about boring equipment, you can certainly talk with them. I know they're also doing a presentation next door to First Light about the loan program. Okay, and finally, the meeting after the meeting. Some of us will be heading over to the Granite Brew Pub at Eglinton and Mount Pleasant. You park in the garage underground, and we're usually at a reserved table at the back room of the place. So that's it for the announcements for this time. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Have a safe trip home, and clear skies.